Simon Cowell has watched thousands of performances, but none of them started like this. A 9-year-old girl walked onto the stage, pressed a button, and when her father's voice filled the studio, Simon completely broke down. The America's Got Talent stage. Pasadena Civic Auditorium. Tuesday evening. The audience was buzzing with the usual pre-show energy, excited chatter, phone cameras ready, people hoping to witness the next viral moment. The judges sat at their red desk. Simon Cowell in his signature black shirt, arms crossed, that familiar expression of mild skepticism mixed with boredom. He'd seen it all. Every sob story. Every manufactured emotional moment. Every attempt to manipulate the audience's heartstrings. 20 years in this business had made him immune to most of it. Then a little girl walked onto the stage. She was 9 years old. Small for her age. Wearing a simple purple dress that looked like something her grandmother might have picked out. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She walked slowly, carefully, clutching something small in her right hand. Host Terry Crews greeted her with his usual warmth. "Hello there. What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emma," she said quietly, her voice barely reaching the microphones. "Emma Rodriguez. And how old are you, Emma?" 9. "I'm 9 years old." "That's wonderful. And what are you going to do for us today?" Emma looked down at the object in her hand. It was a small digital voice recorder, old and worn, the kind people used before smartphones became ubiquitous. "I'm going to sing," she said. "But first I need to play something." Terry glanced at the judges, slightly confused. This wasn't in the production notes. "Play something?" Emma nodded. She held up the recorder so everyone could see it. "This is my dad's voice. He recorded this for me 3 years ago. Before he died. He told me if I ever got scared singing in front of people, I should listen to this first." The audience went silent. That kind of instant, total silence that happens when something real cuts through the entertainment veneer. Simon straightened slightly in his chair. His arms uncrossed. "I want to play it for everyone," Emma continued, her voice steady despite the tears forming in her eyes. "So they know why I'm here. So they know why this matters." Terry looked toward the producers in the wings, unsure how to proceed. This wasn't standard protocol. But Emma didn't wait for permission. She pressed play. Simon Cowell has watched thousands of performances, but none of them started like this. The girl pressed a button and when her father's voice filled the studio, Simon completely broke down. The voice that came from the small recorder was male, gentle, slightly rough around the edges. A working man's voice. Tired but full of love. "Hey, baby girl. It's Daddy." Emma stood perfectly still on the stage, holding the recorder up like an offering, tears streaming down her face. "If you're listening to this, it means you're about to do something brave. Maybe you're singing at school. Maybe it's a talent show. Maybe it's something even bigger. And I know you're scared, because you always get scared before you sing, even though you have the most beautiful voice I've ever heard." Simon's hand moved to his mouth. His eyes were locked on the little girl standing alone on that massive stage. "I want you to remember something, Emma. Your voice is a gift. Not because you sing perfectly, though you do, but because when you sing, you share a piece of your heart with the world. And your heart is the most beautiful thing I know." The father's voice cracked slightly, emotion bleeding through. "I'm so proud of you, baby. I'm proud of you every single day. And even if I can't be there to hear you sing, I'm always with you. Always. When you close your eyes and sing, I'm right there listening. I promise." A pause. The sound of the man taking a shaky breath. "So be brave, Emma. Sing like I'm in the front row. Sing like you're singing just for me. Because wherever you are, whatever stage you're on, I'm there. I'm always there. I love you, baby girl. Now go show them what you can do." The recording clicked off. The silence in the auditorium was absolute. 4,000 people holding their collective breath. The other judges, Howie, Heidi, Sophia, were openly crying. Heidi had her hands over her face. Sophia was wiping her eyes with tissues pulled from somewhere beneath the desk. And Simon Cowell, the judge famous for crushing dreams and delivering harsh truths, sat with both elbows on the desk, one hand covering his mouth, tears running down his face. Emma lowered the recorder carefully, clutching it against her chest like the precious thing it was. "That's my daddy," she said to the audience, her voice small but clear. "He died when I was 6. Cancer. He made that recording for me 2 weeks before he went to heaven." Simon stopped the show. No one knew what was happening. Simon stood up abruptly, his chair scraping backward. The audience gasped. In 12 seasons of America's Got Talent, Simon Cowell had never stood up during an audition. Never. He stepped out from behind the judge's desk and walked toward the stage. Terry Crews moved aside, understanding instinctively that something profound was happening. The cameras scrambled to follow Simon's movement. He stopped at the edge of the stage, looking up at Emma, who seemed impossibly small under the massive stage lights. "Emma," Simon said, his voice rough with emotion. "Come here for a second." Emma walked to the edge of the stage and sat down, her legs dangling over the side. Simon crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her eye level. The cameras caught it all, the legendary judge kneeling before a 9-year-old girl, his eyes red, his usual armor completely gone. "Your dad," Simon said quietly, though the microphones picked up every word. "He sounds like he was an incredible man." Emma nodded. "He was the best daddy in the world. I can tell. Because of what he said in that recording. He didn't tell you to be perfect. He didn't tell you to win. He told you to be brave and to share your heart. That's what the best fathers do." Fresh tears rolled down Emma's cheeks. "I miss him so much." "I know you do, sweetheart." Simon's voice cracked. "But he was right. He is here. He's here right now, watching you. And he's so proud of you for walking onto this stage." Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Are you a daddy?" The question caught Simon off guard. "Yes. I have a son. Eric. He's about your age. Does he know you love him?" Simon's jaw clenched. For a moment, he couldn't speak. When he did, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I hope so. But maybe I don't tell him enough. Thank you for reminding me." He stood up slowly, then made a decision that would define this moment forever. "Emma, I want you to sing for us. I want you to sing for your dad. But before you do, I need to tell you something." He turned to face the audience, addressing them directly, another break in protocol, but this moment demanded it. "I've been doing this job for a very long time," Simon said, his voice carrying through the theater. "I've judged thousands of people. I've said no to most of them. I've been called harsh, cruel, heartless. And maybe I have been. Maybe I've forgotten sometimes that behind every performance is a real person with a real story." He looked back at Emma. "But this little girl just reminded me why we do this show. It's not about perfection. It's not about winning. It's about people having the courage to stand on a stage and share their hearts with the world. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this performance is still ahead." Simon walked back to the judge's desk, but he didn't sit down. He stood behind his chair, hands gripping the back of it. "Emma," he said, "whenever you're ready, sing for your dad." Emma stood up and walked back to center stage. She carefully placed her father's voice recorder on the stage floor, right at her feet. A small act but symbolic, her father's words literally supporting her as she performed. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and when she opened her mouth, the voice that came out was stunning. She sang Blackbird by the Beatles. Her father's favorite song, she would later explain. Her voice was pure and clear, with a maturity that seemed impossible from someone so young. But it wasn't technical perfection that made the performance extraordinary. It was the raw emotion behind every word. She sang like her father was in the front row. Like she was singing just for him. Like his voice recorder was a portal connecting them across the impossible distance between life and death. The audience sat in reverent silence. No phones out. No one moving. Just 4,000 people witnessing a 9-year-old girl singing to her dead father. When Emma hit the final note, her voice breaking slightly with emotion, the silence held for 3 full seconds. Then the theater exploded. Standing ovation. Immediate. Universal. The audience on their feet, applauding, crying, some of them openly sobbing. Heidi was out of her chair, both hands over her heart. Howie was wiping his eyes behind his glasses. Sophia was applauding while tears streamed down her face. And Simon Cowell stood behind his chair, not applauding, because both of his hands were covering his face as he cried. Backstage, producers were begging him to continue, but he didn't. Emma stood on stage, overwhelmed, tears running down her face, not sure what to do. Simon lowered his hands, walked around the desk, and climbed onto the stage itself, something he had never, in 12 years, done during an audition. He walked straight to Emma and knelt down in front of her again. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, an actual cloth handkerchief, old-fashioned, probably expensive, and gently wiped the tears from her face. "Your dad was right," Simon said softly, though the microphones caught it. "You have the most beautiful voice. But more importantly, you have the most beautiful heart." Emma threw her arms around his neck and sobbed into his shoulder. Simon held her, this little girl he'd met 5 minutes ago, and let her cry. The audience watched in silence, witnessing something that transcended television. When Emma finally pulled back, Simon kept his hands on her shoulders. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. Can you do that?" Emma nodded. "Your dad's last gift to you wasn't just that recording. It was teaching you to be brave. To share your heart. To keep singing even when it hurts." Simon's voice was steady now, though his eyes were still red. "And today you honored that gift. You were brave. You shared your heart. You sang for him. And he heard you. I promise you, Emma, he heard you." He stood up and looked at the other judges. "I don't need to hear anyone else's opinion. I don't care about protocol. Emma Rodriguez, you have my yes. Unquestionably. Unconditionally. Yes." Howie was already standing, tears streaming down his face. "Yes. Absolutely yes." Heidi could barely speak. "Yes, sweetheart. Yes." Sophia nodded, her voice thick. "Yes, baby. Yes." But what happened next, no one in the theater, or watching at home, could ever forget. Simon walked to the golden buzzer. That massive golden button that sent 1 act per season straight to the live shows. He put his hand on it. "Emma," he said, "your dad told you he'd always be with you. And he is. But today, I want to make sure the whole world hears your voice. I want to make sure your dad's message reaches as far as it possibly can." He slammed his hand down on the golden buzzer. Golden confetti exploded from the ceiling. The audience erupted into screams. Emma collapsed to her knees on the stage, clutching her father's voice recorder, sobbing. The other judges rushed onto the stage, all of them, breaking every rule, and surrounded her in a group embrace. Simon stood apart for a moment, watching, then joined them. He knelt down and whispered something to Emma that the microphones didn't catch. Later, Emma would tell reporters what he said. "Keep that recording forever. And when you have children someday, let them hear their grandfather's voice. Let them know what love sounds like." Emma nodded through her tears, clutching the recorder like a lifeline. The golden confetti continued to fall. The audience wouldn't stop applauding. And Simon Cowell stood on that stage, surrounded by people celebrating a little girl's courage, and realized that sometimes the most important thing a judge can do is simply witness someone's grief and call it beautiful. Share and subscribe, so this story will never be forgotten. Emma went on to the live shows. She didn't win the competition, she made it to the semifinals before being eliminated. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that millions of people heard her sing. millions of people heard her father's voice telling her to be brave. After the show, Simon had the voice recorder professionally preserved and backed up onto multiple devices. "Some things are too precious to risk losing," he told Emma's mother. Today, Emma is 12. She still sings. And before every performance, she still listens to her father's recording. And Simon Cowell still keeps a handkerchief in his pocket, just in case he needs it.